Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Troy with Cichlid Bros. In today's video, we are walking through all of my aquariums. We are going to be showcasing all the fish that I currently own. We're going to be giving some big updates on the current fish, new fish that I've added, future plans, and we're also going to unfortunately give some updates on a few losses in the fish room. But it's going to be a jam-packed video, so let's go ahead and dive right in. So starting right here, this is my 180 gallon aquarium. This is an acrylic tank, 6 by 2 by 2 feet. And it's gone through some changes. Right now it is the holding tank for this beautiful black diamond stingray. This is a male that I've currently had for about 5 weeks now. He settled in so nicely. He eats really well. I've given him some raw shrimp, some krill, some silver sides, and he loves that. All these electric blue acara in here go after that frozen food as well, so I kind of have to scare him away so that the stingray can get the food. But the stingray is so playful. I absolutely love this guy. Comes up to the front of the tank like this and definitely wants food. He plays in the sand. He'll bury himself in the sand. And the electric blue acara, sometimes they're scared from the big stingray, but sometimes they'll come out like this and really want some food. But yeah, this guy is just incredible. You can see his mouth there. Got his tail and all the color patterns on him with the white spots. Just an absolutely beautiful stingray. And like I've mentioned in other videos, this is his holding tank. He'll be going into my big 500 gallon plywood aquarium very soon, so can't wait for that. But in the meantime, I'm really enjoying him in this tank, and the electric blue acara add some color and activity to this tank. In the meantime, they get a bigger grow out tank as well until I figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of these. Right now it's just the stingray and I believe 13 electric blue acara. A few of them I know where they're going, but the rest of them I still have to figure it out. But they are growing and happy and healthy in the 180. Some of you asked if I was worried if the stingray would eat the electric blue acara, and the answer to that is I'm not. I think they are probably too big for the stingray right now, but if the stingray was full size, I would definitely be worried about it. But once I feel like this stingray has grown a little bit and has fully settled in and gotten to know me, I'll be moving him out of this tank. I will be moving the electric blue acara, and I will be updating this tank with a completely new stocking, and I cannot wait for that. It's going to be absolutely incredible. So next up, this is my 150 gallon custom aquarium that has been set up and running for about 3.5 years now. It is 5 by 2 by 2 feet, and it is primarily South American cichlids. I absolutely love the fish in here, starting with this spin eye that I currently have 3 of. I have this beautiful colorful male that's really big and has some trailers to its fins. And then I have a female as well. And then the third Geophagus spin eye, unfortunately, it looks like he has some swim bladder issues. He's had that for a little over a month now, and that's really a hard disease to treat, but I'm going to do my best. Might need to pull him out of the tank and treat him, but even though he is kind of at the bottom of the substrate, he does go after food and still eats pretty well. I have 4 electric blue acara, including 2 really big ones. These are probably the biggest electric blue acara I've ever seen. They're about 6.5 inches, and they are responsible for all the babies that I've had in my fish room and all the electric blue acara that are now around the Chicagoland area. They are awesome. And then I have 2 zebra lace angelfish that are pretty big, and even though there's only 2 of them in the tank, they really don't go after each other or cause any issues. I have the 7 denizen barbs that are probably all 5 inches, maybe a little bit bigger now. And I also have 3 plecos in here, including a super red and a chocolate bristlenose pleco. I also have an exotic pleco in here that I spent a lot of money on and I absolutely never see. I also have the Satanoperica juripari in here, which is probably the oldest fish out of all of my aquariums. It's probably 7 years old now, and they're also an earth eater, so they're constantly churning up the sand looking for uneaten food. It's a really cool behavior that it shares with the Geophagus species. And an unfortunate update in this tank is I did lose the albino heckelei. This was probably 3 or 4 months ago, but it was a beautiful fish. The albino, that pop of white and orange in the tank, I really enjoyed as a really peaceful fish. It got an infection of some type of cut on its head, and I treated it with Melicure, and it just didn't ever come back, and unfortunately I lost him. But that's really been one of the few losses of this tank over 3+ years of having it set up. And I did love that albino heckelei, so I might get another one. We will see, but an unfortunate update nonetheless. But all these fish have done well with live plants. I have some really big Anubias that have grown in over the years. a really big centerpiece driftwood there, and it's just been a really awesome tank. I do far less water changes in this aquarium than my others because the live plants have really grown in and they consume those nitrates, and it just looks awesome. I added the 2 Kessel lights above the tank. It provides a really cool shimmer effect to this tank, and really couldn't be happier with this setup. I just sit by it and watch it all the time. So next we're gonna go to the backyard and see an update on my koi pond, but first we're gonna unbox this related item that's actually gonna go for the koi pond. This is a security system from Eufy. And although this is gonna help me monitor my koi pond, it's also something for my house in general, but I figured I'd show it on this video because it's gonna be a pretty cool view of my koi pond, so let's check it out. And there are a lot of cool features about this. It is solar powered, and I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to renewable energy like that, so that's a plus of this camera system. All right, and you can see it comes with 2 really cool looking cameras with the solar panels above it, so the solar power will charge these guys as they're outside. So I'll put one of these pointed towards my koi pond and one of these probably pointed to my front lawn, so I get a full security around my house. So inside the box, this looks like the power system. That's probably what you connect it to, basically like a modem that you connect the 2 cameras into, but we will set this up and show how it goes together. So this camera is pretty awesome, really clear picture, and you can see that I'm messing around with it on my phone right now. You can zoom in really well, see the koi swimming around. You can see part of my yard over here, but also right down here in the side of the pond, you can see we have a big space with some plants and stuff that I kind of want to remove and expand the koi pond. So when I do that, this camera is going to be awesome to see this whole koi pond, maybe even some bigger koi, and give them much more space to grow in. But this is pretty cool, and you can also see that it can track anything around the koi pond as well. So if I have anything like a blue heron appear, I'll be notified and I'll be able to scare it away if needed.
So honestly, the camera is awesome, and this pro detection in the settings shows any type of motion around the pond, so I'll be notified. It'll be a really cool thing to have. Also, it has an awesome night vision camera. I think it's called Max Vision, and look how clear it is. I can even watch the koi pond at nighttime. So this is an awesome function, and of course I'll use this for actual security in my front of my house as well.
So that camera and the app are awesome. I'm always gonna have direct access and footage of my koi pond. I'm gonna install the other camera that is paired with it in my front yard, and there's a lot of cool aspects to it. It's got AI technology that can identify faces and notice if it's you or your family or friends, or if it's a stranger, if you have a delivery coming to your door, any of those things it detects, and it can magnify a lot. So it's a really cool gadget that I have, and I'm really excited about it for the koi pond. But now let's talk about the pond. So this is about 1,500 gallons with 6 koi in it. I've had 5 of the koi for a long time, probably 4 years now, and there is one that was a baby koi last year. And that koi, as you can see, is a little bit silverish, whitish, yellow. Not the prettiest looking koi. I don't know exactly which were the parents, but this was a solo baby, which is really interesting because koi lay thousands of eggs, and this was the only one to survive. I wasn't trying to breed them, and it was just really cool to see that one day. But now it's caught up in size to the white koi in the pond. A couple of these are really looking good. They've put on size every season. It's just an awesome, tranquil area in my backyard. Absolutely love this pond. Like I mentioned, I would love to expand this pond, maybe next spring, double the size, maybe deepen the pond as well. And with that, the camera system that I just installed will be really cool to have. Just always looking at the pond, especially if I'm investing more in this system. It'll be a really good thing to have. So stay tuned for that. Let's go back inside and check out the rest of the fish. Then we also have my smart aquarium here. This is my 5-gallon tank, and you'll see some of the smart functionality with the auto feeder on the top, the digital monitor right there. You'll also see it's telling me that red button that I need to clean up one of the filters. But right now I have a beautiful betta in this tank. Really awesome red color and fins. This is his tank and he owns it, but I also added a mystery snail, and this guy's really active for a snail, It's a good tank mate for the betta. And then we also added some new live plants. So I added some crypts into here to go along with the Anubias. I'm just kind of letting it grow in for now, but I love this tank surprisingly. It's right next to my desk where I do a lot of my editing and work. And this betta is always just very curious and up at the front of the tank and just a beautiful fish to watch. And it's really relaxing as I'm doing some work. This tank has been set up and running for about 3 or 4 months now, and I have no real complaints about it. I have really enjoyed this tank, so if you want to see the full unboxing and review of this smart aquarium, I'll leave it up in the right hand corner. So next up we have my other custom aquarium, which is 135 gallons, it is 6 feet long, and it's a pretty minimal aquascape because the peacocks and haps from Lake Malawi, they like that open water swimming space, and they just provide so much activity in the tank, swimming back and forth, and there's just some awesome color in here with the red from the dragon blood, the yellow from the sunshine peacock and lemon jake. You got blues and greens and just everything in here, as it's such an active tank with all these different cichlids. I also have 2 Synodontis petricola, which are 2 of my other oldest fish in my fish room. They are probably about 7 years old as well. They keep to themselves within the rockwork. They kind of come out and scavenge. They're also nocturnal mostly, so I don't see them all the time, but this tank is awesome and pretty simple to set up. I'm probably going to add some more peacocks and haps to this tank soon, because I did lose the Madoka white lips recently. That was pretty unfortunate because it is one of my favorite haps. It may have just been the typical aggression you get with African cichlids, where one just seems a little weak and then they all go after it eventually. I feel like with this tank I've lost a cichlid once every 6 months the whole time that this has been set up, for about 2 years, so 4 or 5 haven't made it, and I want to replace those and maybe add to the group to dissipate the aggression even more. And next up we have my 90-gallon discus tank here, and this is planted with some different tetras and schooling fish in the aquarium as well. And this is another one where I've lost a few fish. Over the last few months I've lost a couple discus in this tank. I only have 3 left right now. I really haven't had much luck with the discus over the first 3 years of this aquarium, and I've lost them slowly, just one by one, even though I test my water regularly. The nitrates are very low, the live plants are growing in, I feed them a combination of foods and frozen foods and beef heart, just everything I could do to bring them back, but unfortunately I think it was from the original batch of discus I got that came in with something that just completely drains the discus, which is also weird because all the other fish in here have thrived. I've had 0 losses with all the tetras and the corydoras and everything else, so it's just unfortunate. I might get back into discus or get more discus in the future, but for now I'm just gonna let this tank grow in and see where it goes. You can see there's a really big school of rummy-nosed tetras. There's about 24 of them. There are 6 corydoras that I've had in here for 2.5 years. I also have 4 zebra loaches, which I put in here to eliminate some pest snails, and they did a really good job. It's looking much better. I do still get some algae in this tank because I'm trying to balance the nutrients and the lighting. I also have Kessel lights on this tank. But yeah, I still really like the yellow melon discus I have in here. The blue turquoise discus and the Penang discus are doing okay. They come out to eat, but they're very skittish, and I'm kind of worried that I might lose them as well. But the yellow melon discus at least is doing great. But next up, you'll see behind me is a really cool view. I sit here all the time to watch the plywood aquarium and the discus tank, but the 500-gallon plywood aquarium is doing really well. I've had the fish in there for about 6 weeks now, and they have just thrived. I feel like they've all hit a mini growth spurt. The Oscar is huge. The bala shark is probably over a foot now. The Geophagus finni is absolutely beautiful in this tank. It's really large, and this one's a little more silver based than my other big one, which is more red based in the 150. I also have Big Red in here, who is a severum that I've had probably 6 years now. I have a female red shoulder severum. I have 3 walrus, which have all started to grow as well. They're awesome fish, and they're starting to get into their adult sizes. They're really eager eaters. I have the 2 Geophagus redhead tapajos in here that have done great. The 3 electric blue acara I put in here that were small at the time have probably doubled in size, and that was another question many of you had, is whether or not the Oscar would eat the electric blue acara. They were just as big as the Geophagus that had been with the Oscar before, so I wasn't too worried. but they were definitely on the smaller end. Now they definitely fit in, and I don't really have any issues or worry about that Oscar going after them. I still have the big black Acara in here, as well as a green Phantom Pleco, which is a beautiful fish, kind of scavenges the back of the tank and eats some algae as well. There's been some brown algae on the glass panel and the outside of the tank, but I'm just starting to ramp up my water changes and get a process down of cleaning this aquarium, which is a bigger task than my other aquariums. And I will be doing a full update on this plywood tank very soon, where I talk about everything that's been going on with it, as well as preparing for the new Stingray to move over. So I'm very excited for the plywood tank. It's been up and running with water for about 3 months and with fish for about 6 weeks. So couldn't be happier with this huge tank down in my basement. And I'm definitely proud of what I was able to accomplish by building this. There's also been something happening on the other side of this room, which I won't reveal just yet. There will be a full video coming soon, but needless to say, this whole space down here in my fish room has been improving. Every month I have a new project or a new aquarium coming, so stay tuned for that video. I think it's going to be a really special one. But with that being said, let's check out the 3 aquariums, actually 5 aquariums in my storage room that I call my work in progress fish room. So first off, we have the 75-gallon aquarium that's gone through some changes as well. I completely rescaped this tank once the electric blue Acara moved out, and I put in my 2 Cuban cichlids. So these are supposed to be a breeding pair of Cuban cichlids. They're really aggressive species from Central America or from Cuba, and they are absolutely stunning fish. Such beautiful color and patterns on these guys. Really starting to grow since they've been put into the 75-gallon aquarium. I also added some new substrate and some rocks and also a divider in the middle of the tank, just so they could get to know each other and sense each other before they're kind of one-on-one in the tank, and hopefully no aggression happens. I'll be standing by as best I can once that divider is removed to make sure no aggression or really big issues happen. I also put the AI Prime 16s above this tank just to test them out on a different aquarium, and I think it looks awesome, providing a shimmer above the 75-gallon aquarium and on the Cuban cichlids, who just look stunning. Next to that tank, I have 2 empty 20-gallon aquariums, which are kind of my quarantine and holding tanks. I have plans to utilize them when I get some new fish coming up, and maybe for breeding, which we'll talk about in just a second. So next up, we have my 40-gallon breeder tank, which is a cold water aquarium. It's kind of a unique setup. Doesn't look the best right now. I need to clean out some of the algae and debris, but this has 4 Gymnogeophagus pterapurpura, which are very similar to Geophagus species. They are earth eaters, but they're from the Uruguay and Paraguay region of South America, which is much colder year-round, so they are not tropical fish, and they actually thrive in the colder temperatures. So this tank is only at about 64-65 degrees Fahrenheit, and they also share this tank with 6 panda cories, which have been in here for a long time, as well as a couple green fire tetras that have lasted from the original group. This tank has been set up for about 3 years, and the Gymnogeophagus pterapurpura really look great, especially the big male when it's fired up. Looks awesome. They don't get too big, so it's been great in this 40-gallon tank, and they only are really aggressive whenever they've been breeding, and they've bred multiple times in this tank. So I might start up one of those 20-gallon aquariums and pull the fry out and try and raise them up and sell them around the area, because I think they're really cool fish. And I've also been on the lookout for another Gymnogeophagus species, the Gymnogenies, which is one that's been on my bucket list for a long time. They're beautiful fish, and I would like to set up an even bigger aquarium with more Gymnogeos and just a big cold water aquarium. So that's always been on my mind of something I would like to do with these fish. But they've been doing great for over 3 years without a heater, and just really minimal work that's needed to be done on this tank. But let's go ahead and move up to the top tank on this rack, which is the 33-gallon Fluval Flex, which has the shell dwellers. And every time I show this tank, it probably looks like there's more shell dwellers than before, and that is correct. I've scooped out bunches of shell dwellers over the years to give to friends and local fish stores, and whenever I do that, they just breed again and repopulate, fill in the rest of the tank. But you'll also notice that even though the fish are awesome and they have the really cool behaviors with the shells and breeding, the tank is always looking terrible. And it's something that's bothered me for the whole time I've had this tank. I love the fish, but I can't stand the untidy aquarium with all the mounds of sand. And it doesn't help having that bow front on this tank. It was kind of a mistake because they moved the sand up on that panel, and it's even worse in this tank than it would say in like a 40 breeder. So I do want to shut down this aquarium soon. I might move some of the shell dwellers to the other 20 gallon that's empty, but I may just give away the entire colony. I am not sure yet. I definitely want to get rid of the Foofall Flex because I also noticed the pump and the all-in-one system in the back just doesn't work very well when you have fish that are constantly blowing around the sand. So it's been nice having this tank, but I'm definitely ready to move on and maybe get a 40 gallon breeder in its place, or just a really big tank to take the place of these two on the rack. And also in general with this room, I've had plans for a long time to just make it look way better. It is a storage room, but I did want to finish it a little bit more and make it look way more aesthetically pleasing when you come in here, and a place I just want to spend more time because I have the Cuban cichlids and the gymnogeophagus that I love, and I might be adding on to this. So much more to come here. Hopefully there will be some cool updates on the fish room that I can show in the next couple months. And definitely the most disappointing aquarium of all is the 15 gallon saltwater tank. This is the Hello Reef aquarium kit, and you'll see that it looks terrible right now and it's missing the huge anemone. And unfortunately I did lose that Chicago sunburst anemone. I absolutely love that thing. It had really grown, it was huge, it looked like it was about to split into two, and the clownfish had not hosted it yet, but I was just really excited for that to happen. I had had that anemone for 9 or 10 months. But what happened was I went on vacation for a week, and I had all the food planned for someone to come over and feed all the fish, and they were feeding the anemone and the clownfish, but I forgot the rate of evaporation of this tank. And even though I had extra water to top off this aquarium, I didn't tell that person to do that. It was an oversight by me. And as the evaporation happened, the third chamber where the pump and the heater were, it drained very quickly. And when I came back, that heater was exposed and it actually shattered at the bottom of it. Some of the shards of glass from that heater had turned off the pump as well, so that entire chamber was just a mess. I was lucky that nothing bigger happened, like a big fire hazard in my house, but that was just a big oversight by myself to not top off this aquarium. And the clownfish made it through that whole ordeal, whereas the anemone did not. Luckily, the clownfish are still in here happy and healthy, but you'll see I have the heater inside the tank and the wave maker and an air stone in here temporarily. As I get this tank up and running again, I just needed to get a new return pump because the other one is completely shot, just like the heater. This is also a new heater, so I'm just going to get this completely fixed up and looking good. Maybe I'll do a video update on this tank. I also don't know if I'm going to get a new anemone or not, or if I go the coral route. I love the anemone, but it was really expensive, and I don't know if I can replace what I really liked the last time. So might just do some easy corals and maybe some shrimp and other cleanup crews to go along with the clownfish. And yeah, I might also get a lid for this tank because I'm really tired of topping it off. I also may add an ATO, but I don't want anything that's too over the top expensive on this aquarium because it's supposed to be just simple and easy. But that's the biggest update and unfortunate update that I probably have down there in the fish room, and much more to come on this tank. Hopefully things will be looking better next time you see it.
Can't have a fish room tour without Rambo.
Alright guys, so that is the update on all of my aquariums. We talked about every single fish down here in my fish room and in my koi pond. Seeing the stingray always distracts me on video. But thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, definitely leave those down below. So much exciting plans coming. I cannot wait to share them. And this is just my fish room. Quinn and Alec are expanding and doing some awesome things. So this is the perfect time to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of those updates. Thanks again for watching though, and we'll see you next time.